In this episode, I talk about the man-in-the-middle attack in Firefox, Apple with the Sapphire screen and NFC, the should I remove it anti-bloatware application, and the origins of the blue screen of death. This episode of TQA Weekly is brought to you by the TQA Weekly store. Great gifts that support the show. My name is Steve Smith, this is TQA Weekly, and if ever you have any questions, comments, suggestions, and or PC horror stories, you can always email me at ask@tqaweekly.com. You can always go to tqaweekly.com and interact with the community, or use the contact form there to email me directly. And of course, if you're watching on YouTube, Vimeo, Blit.tv, or anywhere else I post it every single week, you can always drop the message down below. Welcome to episode 1 of season 5, and I decided I was going to do a spin onto my show so that it will actually be more interesting and shorter for you to actually listen to. So it'll be, let's say, less painful. Okay? Let's just be frank. It'll be less painful. So you'll have 3 different types of episodes as of now. You'll have the TQA Weekly News, which will be the one for today. TQA Weekly Technology Demonstrated, where I rip things apart and actually show you how they work, and of course, user questions answered. So let's get on to the first topic of the day, which has to do with the man-in-the-middle attack and Firefox, who is now the first browser as of version 32 to actively tell you that something is going wrong, because they will start recording the cryptographic identity for a given period of time of all of the secure websites that you are visiting, and whenever any of these secure websites cryptographic identity does not match, the lock sign, which should show up whenever you're accessing a secure website, will simply not show up anymore. Remember, this is as of version 32, so if you haven't already got it updated, remember to update your Firefox install all the way up to version 32. The second topic of the day has to do with the Sapphire screen of the Apple iPhone and Apple Watch. But everybody's going to say iWatch, even though technically it's the Apple Watch. Now, what is really cool about the Sapphire screen is the fact that it is flexible, that it is more scratch resistant, and less likely to break. What's even better about it is the implementation that Apple uses ion embedding, which technically tints the screen, so it can't be done directly in the middle of the screen, but it does line the sides of the screen and does completely cover the top and bottom of the screen, essentially protecting all 4 corners of the phone, which are technically the weakest parts of the screen. By allowing those parts of the screens to be more reinforced by ion embedding, they're basically preventing us from having to replace the screen more often by actually making the screen stronger, more scratch resistant, and less likely to break. The third topic of the day, and again about Apple, has to do with the fact that we now have the ability to use NFC to use Apple Pay. So as of October, many different merchants in the United States and later on throughout the world will be accepting NFC payment through Apple. Now, I know there's going to be a lot of growing because everybody out there that's an Android fanboy is actually going to say, well, Android put out NFC first. Why should Apple get the glory? And it is a very simple thing to do it. I have Nexus devices, and there's nothing preventing a Nexus device from just freely outputting the information without any protection whatsoever. And while the fingerprint should be used as a username and not a password, it is still one step more to securing our actual payments, since the Apple device requires your thumbprint while sticking the device to be read as an NFC transmitter. We are basically making it more secure. And of course, because it is Apple, there's so many different users all using Apple, and it's so much simpler to program for Apple because there are fewer devices in it, that obviously merchants were waiting for a unilaterally simplified way of allowing NFC payments. And guess what? By having Apple finally come out with it, maybe every other device that supports NFC will finally be useful in this way across the United States, Canada, and every other country as it gets rolled out across the world in the coming year or 2. So obviously, it took Apple to do something last for anybody to get the benefit out of it. The fourth topic of the day, and very interesting one, is the application Should I Remove It? It's an anti-bloatware application. So whether your computer is brand new or not, what you'll do is you go to tqaweekly.com/SE5EP01. If you're watching on YouTube, the link's down below. And you'll be able to go to the link, should I remove it? There's an application that you can install on your computer that will tell you which applications are useless, and then you can just remove them from your computer. This will make it a lot simpler for you to get the most benefit out of your computer without all the bloatware in it. And by removing bloatware, by the way, you actually increase the amount of RAM that you have available on your computer and lower the amount of start time that actually takes your computer to load. And the final topic of the day, and the most interesting, it has recently been announced that the original blue screen of death message, part of Windows since Windows 3.1 days, was in fact written by former CEO Steve Ballmer. So if we actually read this out, at one point, Steve Ballmer, in charge of system divisions, came in to see the progress and look of the screen. And admittedly, the original message was fine, but he decided to write it in his way, and it turns out it was better. And it remained in Windows for many years. Just another fun fact about Windows that we didn't know. So what I want you to do is subscribe if you haven't already done so. Share with those that you think would actually find this episode interesting. And like if you actually like this episode. Have a great day, and let's see you here next week.